What do you make of those rumors?
I like Luke a lot, and I think he's been dealt a tough hand, but he's going to be a casualty of war, unfortunately. With the drama that surrounded this season, the not living up to expectations, which to me were way out of the ordinary and a long shot to begin with, or virtually impossible. LeBron came here and it was supposed to say, change the world. Murals start going up and big giant pictures of him, and he's coming to save LA. And this is the Western Conference. We got a full chance of that because of injuries. Two, I would say management. I would say, like you said, management, knowing what LeBron's game is, they have too many guys that kind of clog up the middle area, and don't knock down shots. So it keeps LeBron's, the floor is not as spaced.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. When you defend the Lakers, you can kind of sit in the paint.
No question.
And LeBron loves to score at the basket. And if you don't have shooters...
Right. He can't kick to those guys once he gets by them. They're all...
That's why he always loved Chris Bosh and Kevin Love.
Space guys.
They would move outside, forcing the bigs. Remember when Roy Hibbert gave LeBron trouble for 2 years?
He sat in the middle, right?
Yeah. So when you don't have shooters, you can defend LeBron more easily.
And then I think, like I said, management didn't surround him with shooters, made this whole trade deadline mess and debacle and kind of shook the locker room up. And then traded a good young piece in Zubac, I think. Solid, big, 7-foot, skilled, 20-year-old, 21-year-old, and gave him away. You know what I mean? And that's what last night they got bullied. You know what I mean? So you could have definitely used them last night. And then third, I would give it to LeBron and Rich Paul. Because I think, like I said, the way they went about the trade deadline situation destroyed the locker room. Completely destroyed the locker room. And Magic wants to say, this is the business, get over it. LeBron wants to say what he wants, but neither of those guys have ever been in that kind of situation where every single day they're talked about being traded. They've always been the alpha male, two of the greatest players of all time. So they don't really know what it feels like to be scared to look at your phone the next morning or scared to get a call that night because you don't know if you're going to be gone.
You have been
there. It's uneasy. Fortunately, I was a little bit older when I went through it, but for young, second, third year guy, rookie guys, to have that uncertainty is a tough thing to just say, get over and be a professional and play through it because we're all human.
By the way, Shaq defended LeBron and said young guys are soft now. Would you acknowledge the world has changed, though, and you got to kind of buddy up to players, don't you have to?
You have to cater. I think it starts with the AAU programs. I think that, these kids are all, pampered so much that they want to think that this is what the real life is. And, you're supposed to go through college. Like we talked off the air, you're supposed to get yelled at in high school, yelled at in college, and at least listen to your coach in the NBA. And now coaches have to kind of be careful the way they look at players, because they could be fired, if you're looking at the star the wrong way. So I think the culture of basketball has changed, I think, with the physicality and the way they want to call the game. So I think it starts, like I said, the AAU and the upbringing guys are a little bit softer and more pampered too. But basketball as a whole, the toughness has changed. But at the same time, there's never been this much scrutiny on athletes, especially on basketball players. There's never been this many outlets, this many 24-hour news sources where every single day, every single minute, whatever you're doing is under the magnifying glass and it's reported. So I think it does start to wear on guys. And, like I said, no one's looking to feel sorry for them. But at the end of the day, these guys are human, and it gets to some of these guys, and you can definitely tell that.
There's a story out that LeBron would consider sitting out the rest of the games. And I think Joy may have brought this up. When LeBron was coming to L.A., Kobe fans pushed back because it would shrink Kobe's image. It's actually enhanced it because, as Joy said, Mamba gave you 60 the last game he played.
No matter what.
LeBron's coming to games with wine and load management. In a weird way, LeBron arriving in L.A. has elevated Kobe.
No one thought it would happen that way either.
Nobody. I don't like LeBron sitting out games. I think there's last night people were chanting Kobe. I don't like it. What do you make of LeBron potentially sitting last 15 games?
I don't think he will. I think what LeBron's going to do is he's going to turn up more. I think he's going to go out there and be that monster that I thought he would have to save until the playoffs. There's nothing to save anymore. I think LeBron's going to come out and play extremely well this last 2.5, 3 weeks of the season to kind of slow down the whirlwind of criticism he's going to get this summer. It's going to be an ugly summer. But like I said, I think he came in with expectations through the roof. Just adding him to this roster didn't really make them. I know everyone wanted to get caught up in the hype, and I even said at one point I could see them chemistry clicking, no injuries, possibly playing the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. But at the end of the day, like you said, you add LeBron to this roster, they never get a chance to get their chemistry. People are hurt throughout the season, so it was really going to be a no-win for him, because the Lakers are championship and bust, and it's crazy we're making such a big deal about are the Lakers going to make the playoffs. It shows just where they've, how far they've dropped. Because true Laker fans don't care about the playoffs. They care about championship rings, and we're debating the last 2.5 months will they even make the playoffs. So the times have changed.
Crazy?
Times have definitely changed.
Listen, this league is, chemistry is an interesting thing. What was the best chemistry locker room you were ever in, and why was it the best?
I think the two best were actually the Golden State Warrior locker rooms, the We Believe team, because we came together as kind of a gang of misfits. And
what year was that?
2007, we beat Dallas in the playoffs when we got Steven Jackson, Al Harrington.
Was that the Montel Ellis? No,
Monte Ellis was there. Yeah, he was young though, so that was Baron Davis, Monte.
And so that was a different
amazing.
Why?
Because once those guys came, we just all became brothers on and off the floor. You saw one of us, you saw 10 of us. Like we went and ate together, we hung out, we watched film together outside of practice.
Were your ages close?
Yeah, similar in age. Absolutely. That's a big difference. That there's a huge gap disparity between
Think about
LeBron's age and
Rondo, Lance, JaVale, LeBron, Lonzo, Kuzma.
Yeah.
There's almost two Laker teams.
Huge disconnect.
Old dudes, young dudes.
And like I said before, LeBron's never been on a team that's had this many young guys. You know what I mean? And him almost have to play, I don't know if you want to call it a father figure, but a lot of these guys looked up to LeBron as they were coming into the league. And now they're finally here with them, but they're babies and people don't realize 20, 21. Paul George doesn't blossom until he's mid-20s. Victor Oladipo doesn't blossom until he's, he blossomed maybe 2 years ago, and he's an outstanding player now. I think there's so much scrutiny day in, day out on these young Laker players because they want them to be incredible overnight, and it doesn't happen that way.
What was the worst chemistry you ever had, and why?
Unfortunately, it was probably the Clipper locker room, and it was weird because off the court we were friends and we'd hang out, but there were just too many egos once the game started.
That was Blake, Chris Paul.
Chris and DeAndre, and when Doc came.
I always heard that Chris is rough.
Chris is old school. Chris is more like, I'm going to yell. Chris's problem, I think, was his tone he would address guys with. Not what he was saying, because what he was saying was right. Just, I think, his tone. And it goes back to the AU, like these guys are coming up being pampered.
He's old school.
Chris is old school, one of those 80s, 90s, I'm going to yell at you, but what I'm telling you is right. Just listen to me. And I was kind of like the buffer. I'd be like, okay, well, what Chris is trying to say is, you know what I mean? So that's what I would go between, Blake and DJ and with Chris sometimes. And because we had the most talented, and we had the most talent in the NBA for a year or two with the Clippers when it was Chris, Blake, DJ, JJ Redick, Jamal Crawford, Lamar Odom.
Loaded.
We were loaded. Eric Bledsoe. Like, we had some very talented teams, but we were our own worst enemies.
Isn't that incredible? By the way, are you surprised that Chris Paul and Harden have worked? Because they've worked.
I think Chris is kind of doing what Russ is doing, taking a back seat. Like Chris is an alpha guy and Russ was an alpha guy, but realizing that James is the man there and Paul is the man in OKC, like he's taking a back seat for the betterment of the team. And I think it's great, because Chris is still very talented. Hopefully, I just talked to him the other day. I told him the only chance they have is him being healthy. You know what I mean?
That's it.
So, it's, play the marathon, not the sprint. But I'm not surprised because at the end of the day, Chris wants to win. I just think in this situation, he's going to a new team. It's not his team, it's James's team. So he's kind of taken a backseat and done what's needed to be done.
Yeah. Well, how often do you talk like if Luke Walton called you tomorrow, Luke's in trouble. Like, do you think, how is it landing for Luke? Does he understand? I'm a smart dude, been around.
I mean, Luke is such a good guy and been in LA for a long time. So
Funny.
He knows what it is.
He knows the game.
Like I said, he's going to be a casualty of war, unfortunately. I know he'll land on his feet, whether that's another head coach job right away, a college job, or an assistant, and get himself right back to a head coaching position. But, coming into this situation, the Lakers is always a hot seat, but outside of Phil Jackson, the Lakers job has always been a hot seat. You know what I mean? And if you don't perform, you're gone. And they didn't perform this year for a bevy of reasons. But like I said, Luke will be a casualty of war, unfortunately.
Good seeing you, man.
Good to be seen.
By the way, a lot of confusing terms. Invoice, very confusing term. Go to TrueCar.com. Check out the true price. Save $3,000 off MSRP. Joy with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So the Celtics have lost 7 of their last 10 games.
Oh, Lord.
Just dropped them to 5th in the East and 3 games behind the Pacers for the 3rd seed. And now Jalen Brown says one of the issues is a toxic environment around the team.
Wow.
He said, to be honest, I'm not feeling good at all. The losing, it's not a good feeling. I'm not too good about that because right now it's not good. It's toxic. I can't really point out one thing. I don't have all the answers. I'm just going to try to be a part of the change.
Damn.
I'm going to try to do my best. That's all I've got to say.
What happened? I mean, seriously. Fight. This thing just imploded in the last 2 weeks.
I don't know.
God, it's...
Apparently, Jalen Brown doesn't know either, but...
I saw a story this morning where they said Kyrie's only friend that he communicates with is Jason Tatum. That is it. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that's the reality of it. Like, Kyrie's his own dude. He's close with Tatum. He's not close with other people.
There's clearly a chemistry issue with the Celtics, and it's unfortunate because they do have a lot of talent, and I think everyone just keeps kind of glossing over this, whatever this thing is. And it's like, yeah, they're going to be fine in the playoffs because they have so much talent. They'll just figure it out.
Can we just acknowledge this, though? Everybody when Kyrie left LeBron, it was, yeah, Kyrie's career without LeBron. Take it away. Didn't do anything at Duke, didn't do anything in Cleveland, and appears to be hurting the Celtics. Can we just admit that when you take LeBron, that component out of Kyrie's career, it's messy?
I would like to wait to agree with that until after the season is over. Because even though...
When they drop to the 8th seed?
Well, while this concerns me greatly going into the postseason, I still do feel like they have a ton of talent and they may be able to figure it out. But if they don't, then I may have to agree with you because it's looking like a disaster. And again, like the whole thing with the Celtics is that they built the team the right way.
Right. They
have all the picks, and this is how you do a rebuild. Like, and so you got the rings. Is it a success? Because in a place like Boston and a place like LA, like Matt just said, it's not about making the playoffs. It's about championships.
I bang on Westbrook all the time because I say he's hard to play with. We're very close to just putting Kyrie in the Westbrook category where maybe I should peel back on Westbrook because Paul George doesn't appear to be, in the last 40 games, having any trouble playing with Westbrook.
I don't think that you can really say that about Westbrook this year if Paul George is an MVP candidate. Clearly, Westbrook can't be that hard to play with if he's got Paul George playing alongside him the way that he is. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a conversation that you can have, but not about Westbrook this year. So last night was basically the nail in the coffin for the Lakers. Their loss to the Clippers, basically ending their playoff hopes. And one of their issues this year was their inability to play defense. They're currently ranked 24th. And it's a weird video that's going around right now that kind of has everyone talking about just those woes.
It's an interesting piece of video.
It is. So it appears like Kyle Kuzma is pushing LeBron into Gallinari.
Shoving.
Just shoving him to please go and contest the shot.
Play defense.
It really kind of, in reality, is that they didn't do the defensive switch, so LeBron's in his way. He's trying to get over there, and LeBron missed the switch as well.
Boy, it doesn't look good, though.
It looks a mess, and it kind of just encapsulates the entire, I don't know if that's a word, but it just puts together the whole theme of this season. It's funny. All right, finally, with the NFL Combine coming to a close, the draft is approaching April 25th through 27th in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah. And if the current betting odds are right, The Cardinals are going to take either Kyler Murray or Nick Bosa with the first overall pick in the draft. They are co-favorites right now, with Alabama defensive tackle Quentin Williams next, followed by Dwayne Haskins. Now, if I were in that spot with the Cardinals, I would trade back, keep Josh Rosen, and get more picks, more players, because they need more than just a quarterback. And I know everyone keeps saying, well, if you take Kyler Murray, it kind of fixes the offensive line problem and the quarterback problem at the same time. I fundamentally disagree with that. I think that championship level teams have the guys in the trenches taken care of. They maybe not be the very best, but they're in the top 10 area. Those guys on the line are taken care of. Maybe you have a weak spot here or there, but that's where you have your veterans. I mean, look at the Rams.
I would never, this year, as good as Nick Bosa projects to be, there are so many good defensive linemen. It's the best defensive lineman draft maybe that I remember. I couldn't take Nick Bosa one. I could go to the second round and get a guy. Kyler Murray may be the only quarterback in your belief system if you're Arizona that fits your coach. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, they do have a new coach in Cliff Kingsbury, and
looks
maybe
like
that's
this
what
is
he's
the guy
interested in.
Yes.
I just feel like they need so much that you want a young guy to be protected. He's not going to be able to run every single play. And if he's taking shots the way that Josh Rosen did, I don't know if that's a recipe for success, but it's looking like he's going to go number one.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line.
You know, it's funny,
news.
when I always felt the cruelest thing if you were a sports radio